Hey everyone, Pastor Wes here with you on Wednesday night. Hope you're doing well. Temp has certainly dropped and feeling a little bit of a preview of what winter is going to be like with these cold temperatures. So I hope you're staying warm. Hope you're doing well. A few weeks ago, we had talked about the thorn in the flesh that Paul dealt with, and today I had gone back and I'd revisited that verse from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. But there's a different part of it that I kind of honed in on at the end that I just wanted to share a little bit about with you tonight. And it's where he said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Often we ask questions and we always anticipate what the answer is going to be. We rarely ask a question that we don't know what the answer is going to be. In fact, good leadership always asks the question in anticipation of knowing what that answer is going to be. Otherwise, you don't ask the question. But we already have in mind what the response to our question should be, or the response that we hope is going to come from the question that we ask. But it happens very often too that the answer that we receive isn't at all what we expect to receive, what we're asking for. And that's the reason we make the request, right? I mean, we make the request because we know what we're hoping to gain at the end of that question. So when we address our prayers to God, when we plead to God to help us in our need, we know how we want Him to answer the prayer. And in fact, we're guilty as Christians so many times of trying to manipulate, put God in a box and ask a question, and basically in our asking of the question, it's more the form of a sentence of telling God how you want everything to be done. We want Him to remove the trouble that afflicts us, and we want to tell Him how to do that. I mean, that's the answer that we're looking for. And really, when you think about it, you say, well, isn't that what it means to pray confidently? Isn't that what it means to trust in God's almighty power and the assurance of His loving concern for our well-being? Well, God answers our prayer, but He does so according to His divine wisdom, not necessarily according to our wishes. No matter how frequently or how fervently you plead with the Lord to grant Him or grant you the answer that you're looking for, and you can never say then that God isn't listening. You can't say that God doesn't care. His plans for us may just be different from what we think they should be or what we want them to be. It's not for us to prescribe the time when God should help, or the way or the manner in which God should work. Sometimes we are so determined that our way is the only way that we don't even recognize God's answer when He gives it, because our mind is so set on the way it should play out. And we can certainly learn from Paul. We can learn from his experience of the thorn in the flesh. See, God didn't give Paul the answer he was looking for. There's no way that when Paul pleaded with the Lord 3 times to take away the thorn in his flesh, that in his mind and in his heart, that there's no way he was hoping or assuming or even trying to maneuver God into a place of just taking it away and getting this answer of "my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." There's no way that that's what Paul was expecting from God as his answer. But in that, he was reminding Paul that we all are dependent, totally, completely dependent on God's grace. See, it's by God's grace that Paul was an apostle. The effectiveness of his work as a chosen messenger of the gospel, it wasn't going to be diminished by the continuing to bear the thorn in the flesh. Paul's preaching of the word would succeed because it was God who gives the success. And it still is. It's God who gives the success. Not because Paul was physically strong, not because he was healthy, not because he wouldn't have had a thorn in the flesh. That's not what his success was based on. His success was based on the grace of God. And God said, "My grace is sufficient for you." You see, God's power is all the more evident when he accomplishes his purpose in the weakness of the human instrument that he has chosen to carry out his work. Never forget that we are all the objects of God's grace, just as Paul was. We are the objects of God's grace. And it's by his grace that we are his children. It's by God's grace that we have the privilege of being able to address him as our Heavenly Father. It's by his grace that we are allowed to petition him. And at the end of the day, we've got to understand and we've got to settle it in our heart and in our mind and in our spirit that he will answer according to his grace and he will answer according to his purpose. So don't box God in on what you think the answer should be or what you want him to do. Just let God be God. Make your request. Make your petition. Don't tell God how to do it, but just leave it in his hands. Whatever it is, whatever you're going through, whatever petition, whatever request, whatever need that you have, when you go to God, go to him with an honest heart. Ask of him and let him deliver in his time, according to his grace, according to his purpose. And I promise you, you'll never miss God's answer. Till next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week. I love you. God bless you.